Honey, you needn't overwork yourself now that you're pregnant. Starting from tomorrow, I will handle everything at the company. Just stay home and take care of yourself. It is said that the first 3 months of pregnancy are the riskiest, and you haven't been looking too well lately. You mustn't be so busy. It's very important to take a break. My husband Felix is gentle with his words, and his eyes are full of care when he looks at me. I gaze at him in a daze, pain from my fatal experience in the last life still fresh in my mind. It's hard to believe that this man, who has been with me day in and day out for 3 years, is in fact a beast wearing human skin. I was completely deceived by him in the past, having total trust in him. In the eyes of others, he is loyal to me and always maintains a distance from other women. Even at social gatherings outside, he manages to strictly control himself. It was only in my previous life, when he tried to poison me by secretly mixing toxic herbal medicines in the guise of grilled in the chicken broth he made for me, that I discovered how cruel this man could be. Seeing me in a daze, Felix pretends to express his concern and says, "Honey, are you too tired? You were up working until the wee hours last night. You absolutely must not do this again. I will take care of everything regarding work. Right now, the most important thing is for you to get some rest. I'll go buy some nutritional supplements for you. Rest on the bed for now." He tenderly guided me to the bed in our bedroom, gave me a gentle kiss on my forehead, then swiftly left our home. After he left the house, I got up from bed and walked to the window. Seeing him drive away from the villa's garage, I muttered, "Felix, you heartless beast. If you are so fond of acting, then I'll accompany you." I walked into the kitchen, looking at the ingredients in the fridge. Ever since we got married, Felix has been the one cooking. In his words, a man who loves his wife would not bear to let her stand in front of a smoky stove, and certainly wouldn't want her hands to touch the dirty dishwater. Back then, I was so silly and happy, really believing that he was pampering me. It wasn't until my last life, when I was murdered, that I comprehended why Felix didn't want me in the kitchen. In the corner of the refrigerator, there was a small black bag containing a few American herbs: raw abris, thunder godvine, raw cola. These herbs are all poisonous. Since we got married, he has been secretly feeding me these poisonous herbs, resulting in my health deterioration day by day. At first, I thought it was because I was too tired, causing my body's resistance to weaken, hence the frequent dizziness and nausea. Just before my death in my previous life, I found out that he had been putting these herbs into my food and drinks. The dose was so small that I didn't notice it. Because his childhood sweetheart Jessica White was pregnant, he was in a hurry. He wanted to marry Jessica White into the family as soon as possible, so he disguised the deadly herb as grilled for chicken soup. I took a deep breath, fetched my phone, and dialed the private investigator. "Stop following the woman you were investigating last time," I ordered. "Head to number 36 Cargo Street. There is a lady named Jessica White. Keep a close watch on her. And every action of Felix, make sure they're under constant surveillance." In the past, it was then I noticed Felix's slight oddities, sparking some suspicions, so I hired a private investigator to follow the women he was close with. However, Felix was very cautious, and the private investigator confirmed that these women were merely business acquaintances. This time, I had the private investigator directly target the villa at number 36 Cargo Street. That place was Felix and Jessica White's love nest. As long as the villa was under constant watch, there certainly would be some revelations. Afterwards, I dialed the firm under our company's wing, arranging some things. By noon, Felix had bought plenty of nutritious supplements and went into the kitchen to cook for me. Not too long after, a table full of exquisite dishes were served. Felix filled my plate with food, gently uttering, "Darling, eat more. Eating too little isn't good for your health or the baby. Try this fish soup, it's very flavorful." In my previous life, under his sweet promises, I never doubted any dish he cooked and would always eat them all. At this moment, I'm only eating some vegetarian food and didn't touch any meat dishes, because I knew in my heart that he had tampered with these meat dishes. Felix looked at me puzzled and said, "Wife, why aren't you eating meat? These used to be your favorites. Now that you're pregnant, for our baby's sake, you should not be a picky eater." Hearing his hypocritical words, I felt like tearing him apart at once. Shaking my head, I said, "I don't feel well in my stomach. I just want to eat something light. I'm okay with just eating some vegetarian food. You can eat the meat dishes. It would be such a waste to throw them away." Felix stiffened a bit. Knowing well that he added something to the meat dishes, and they are poisonous, how could he eat them? Before he had time to make up a good excuse to decline, I jokingly said, "Husband, why does your face look strange? You didn't happen to poison the food, did you?" Felix quivered slightly, pretended to glare at me in frustration, without a word, and directly dumped the meat dishes into his bowl, engaging in a wolfish eating spree. With a teasing smile, I poured him some water, saying, "I was only teasing you, and you got flustered? Drink some water. Don't choke on your food." He sighed. "They say pregnant women tend to be very suspicious. Now I understand what they mean. My dear, don't you know how much I love you after all these years? Never joke with me like that again. I was scared to death." I nodded in agreement but sneered in my heart. After dinner, Felix said he had business to attend to with a client and hurried out. Not long after he left, a private detective called me. "Miss Cola, your husband went to the First People's Hospital in a hurry. He's getting his stomach pumped." After hanging up, I visited another hospital. I had an abortion. It's not that I didn't want to keep the child, but I knew the baby I was carrying was doomed from the start. Because ever since we got married, Felix had been secretly putting toxic herbs in my food. Even if I was lucky enough to give birth to this child, he would very likely have congenital health issues. Tears rolled down my cheeks when I received the abortion report. From that moment on, the bond between Felix and me completely vanished. Thinking back on the times we spent together, what used to be sweet memories now felt like a knife slowly piercing my heart. I first met Felix at an overseas airport. After graduating from university, I went abroad for travel and stayed there for 2 years. Upon my arrival at the airport, my suitcase was stolen. Helpless and panicking, Felix appeared by my side, solving many of my difficulties. We were both from the same hometown. He was abroad to find work, and I found him to be a likable person. We exchanged contact information and got to know each other. Being in a foreign country often came with inconveniences, but he always showed up to help when I needed it. Gradually, his figure left a deep imprint in my heart. 2 years later, when I was preparing to return home, he came to the airport to see me off. With a sense of reluctance, I looked at him and whispered, "Will you stay here and never return home?" Felix gave a wry smile, shaking his head with a sigh. I took a deep breath, confessed my feelings to him for the first time. My face reddened. "Would you agree to come back with me?" He looked a bit surprised, then his smile turned bitter, and he said helplessly, "The gap between our social statuses is too big. You are the heiress of the Cola Group, able to take over your family business after you return. You were born a shining pearl, while I'm just a poor kid from the countryside. My marrying a rich and beautiful woman and reaching the peak of life is merely a fairy tale. It's impossible for us." Despite his regretful remarks, the longing in his eyes clearly expressed his true feelings. At that time, I stubbornly believed that he also had feelings for me. He was just too concerned about the vast disparity in our statuses and didn't dare to take the leap. I mustered up all my courage, stepped forward, and embraced him. While he was stunned, I took the liberty to plant a passionate kiss on him. With a flushed face. After leaving the hospital, I headed to Welth Street. At the tea house on Welth Street, I met the private detective. He pulled out a disc straight away, saying, "Miss Cola, your husband went to the villa on Welth Street after having his stomach pumped at the People's Hospital. He's been in there with Jessica White for quite a while now." On this disc, there are photographs and videos of them, taken by my people. As I played with the disc in my hand, I said, "This is not enough. I need solid evidence of Felix's affair. Find it as soon as possible. The detective seemed a little troubled and said, Miss Cola, that might be quite complicated. Before he could finish his sentence, I interjected, if you can gather solid proof of Felix's affair within 3 days, I'll reward you with an extra $5 million. At my words, his eyes lit up and he hurriedly replied, Rest assured, Miss Cola, I will definitely complete the task. As for how he planned to gather proof of Felix's affair, I didn't ask. I don't care about the process, only the outcome. While we were talking, the detective received a phone call. After hanging up, he told me, Miss Cola, your husband has left the villa with Jessica White and headed to the Maternal and Child Health Hospital on Wealth Street. There was no need to say more. It was clear that Felix was accompanying Jessica White for a prenatal checkup. The detective stood up and said to me, Miss Cola, please excuse me, I have work to attend to. With that, he quickly left the tea house. Taking advantage of Felix taking Jessica White to the Women's and Children's Health Hospital, the private detective and his crew secretly sneaked into the villa where Jessica White lived, simply to install some eavesdropping and surveillance devices. That night, Felix returned home, worn out. He had been busy all afternoon. First, he went to the hospital for stomach lavage. Then he brought Jessica White for her prenatal checkup. Now, he was returning home at night to deal with me. Indeed, it was a hard day. To reward him, I had intentionally made a pot of soup. By the time I set the soup on the table, a hint of nervousness arose on Felix's face. I smiled and said, Dear, have some soup to shake off the fatigue. You really shouldn't tire yourself out. Our mother and daughter will be dependent on you, the pillar of our family in the future. Felix hastily responded, My love, you're pregnant now. Don't do activities like making soup anymore. Don't exhaust yourself. If you feel like drinking soup, just wait for me to make it when I get home. Caring and thoughtful as he was, he dared not drink the soup I made, as if he was afraid I had poisoned it. It wasn't until I drank a bowl in front of him that he heaved a sigh of relief, gulping down the soup in front of him, and he couldn't help but praise the soup I made. I purposefully said, I went to the hospital this afternoon. The doctor said that I can replenish my strength a bit after newly becoming pregnant. Once the baby is bigger, I can't supplement anymore. Felix feigned an admonishing tone. Why didn't you tell me when you went to the hospital? Even if things at the company are busy, I have to make time to accompany you to the hospital for an antenatal examination. If that's what the doctor said, then we'll just have to do as he told us. I've already asked a friend to bring in several wild grilled from out of town. In a couple of days, I'll prepare grilled chicken soup for you as a tonic, he said. Anger welled up in me, but I feigned gratitude and said, Honey, you're so good to me. Felix hugged me, pretending to be deeply moved, and said, What nonsense are you talking about? I'm your husband. If I don't take good care of you, who will I care for? The old me was deceived by him, step by step stepping into the trap he had set up for me. And now the roles of the hunter and the prey have been reversed. I am now waiting for the day he will prepare grilled chicken soup for me. In the following 2 days, I secretly prepared. Besides having the private detective frequently update me on Felix and Jessica White's whereabouts, I also took the opportunity of Felix's absence to secretly contact a few senior elders of the Cola Corporation when he went to see Jessica White. 2 days later, Felix returned home excitedly. In his hand, he held several wild grilled, one of which was bought from the herbal merchant Brown. Wife, my friend spent a good deal of money purchasing these authentic wild grilled. They are said to be 50 years old. Today, I'll make grilled chicken soup for you as a good tonic. You'll feel rejuvenated after consuming it. I feigned delight and nodded in agreement. But a stronger sense of loathing arose in my heart. In my past life, I was deeply moved and drank the bowl of grilled chicken soup, only to die of poisoning. That kind of heart-wrenching, suffocating pain, I still remember it even now. Felix was busy in the kitchen, while I sat in the living room, sending messages to the company's elders and a private investigator. When the chicken soup had been stewing for half the time, Felix's cell phone rang. The caller ID on the phone showed CEO Jessica. This was a call from Jessica White. "Honey, CEO Jessica is calling you," I said nonchalantly. Felix hastily came out of the kitchen. When he saw that I hadn't touched his phone, he let out a sigh of relief and hurriedly picked it up to answer it in the kitchen. After a while, Felix came out of the kitchen with a frustrated look on his face, saying to me, "Why does CEO Jessica have to insist on discussing the contract now?" I pretended to be understanding, saying, "You go ahead with your work. I can take care of the chicken soup in the kitchen." Felix responded gently, "Wait for me a bit. CEO Jessica is at a tea house not far from our home. I'll go have a chat with her and then come back. When the chicken soup is ready, you can have it first." "Right. I cooked it in 2 pots. You drink the one in the white porcelain pot. For the other pot, I just added some scrap ingredients and left it for myself. The good stuff must always be left for the wife and child first." After settling these matters, he hastily left the house. As soon as he started his car and left, I called the private investigator. "Felix has already headed over to Rich Street. You can get your people to withdraw now." In order to divert attention and facilitate my actions, I had the crew from the private investigation agency intentionally stir up trouble with Jessica White. As expected, Jessica White called Felix right away. I walked into the kitchen and couldn't help but let out a cold chuckle as I saw the 2 pots simmering on low heat. I poured the toxic chicken soup from the white porcelain jar into the thermos and ladled out the genuine grilled chicken soup from the other jar. When Felix came back home and saw me drinking chicken soup, a trace of a subtly malicious grin appeared on his face. "Wife, how's the taste?" Upon his inquiry, I acknowledged with a nod, "Very savory, honey. Your culinary skills are indeed impressive. I've already ladled out the chicken soup in the other jar and put it in the thermos. Uncle Philip from the company just called. He said there's an emergency at the company, and I need to handle it. After you're done drinking the chicken soup, could you drive me to the company?" Hearing my proposition, Felix's pupils minutely dilated. He hastily responded, "Wife, we've agreed that during your pregnancy, I will handle the corporate affairs, right? You don't need to make a special trip. I can go over now. Uncle Philip really is... I've already told him about your pregnancy. If any emergencies arise, he should notify me first. I'd originally planned to have lunch at home and then return to the company. But now it seems I won't get the chance. I'll have to carry the soup to work to eat." With that said, he hurriedly grabbed the thermos and rushed out of the door. Before long, the private detective called me. "Cola, your husband drove to West Brown Street and handed the thermos to Jessica White. He left in a hurry without even getting out of the car. 2 chicken soups, 1 poisonous, the other nourishing. After hanging up the phone, I got dressed and drove towards the office. When I appeared at the office, quite a few people were slightly taken aback, considering that I had not been to the office in recent days. Many knew that I had been resting at home, preparing for childbirth. When I reached the meeting room, I heard Felix in a fury. "Who gave the order?" "Rochelle Cruz. Chapter 3 Betrayal." As Felix reached for his cell phone to call me, I stepped into the conference room directly, pushing the door wide open. Upon my arrival, numerous top executives in the room stood up to greet me. Felix was taken aback for a moment, but quickly rushed over to support me. "Honey, weren't you at home? Just as well you're here. Take a look at these old fellows in the company. They've been stepping on me too much." Before he could finish his sentence, I brushed off the hand he extended to assist me. Under his surprised gaze, I went to sit at the head of the conference room, speaking to Felix coldly. The personnel changes in the procurement, human resources, and finance departments were arranged by me. Do you have any objections? Felix's face went through a rapid succession of expressions. He hastily said, "Honey, I certainly wouldn't question your decisions. But those managers were all promoted by us. If you want to deal with them, at least discuss it with me beforehand to prepare me mentally." Before he could finish speaking, Uncle Philip cut him off coldly. "The company belongs to Lily. Does she need to discuss her decisions with you? If it weren't for those bastards betraying us while being on the payroll, our company wouldn't have suffered such a huge loss. Those people were all recommended by you. They're your people. Do you know what they've done over the years?" Without waiting for Felix to respond, Uncle Philip took out several documents and slammed them down on the conference table, glaring venomously at Felix. Accounting fraud, accepting kickbacks in procurement, bungling personnel arrangements, causing damages worth billions to the company. Felix, how do you explain this? Felix's expression was horrendous. He turned to me, saying anxiously, "Honey, everything I did was for the sake of the company. I didn't know those ungrateful bastards would act so viciously. We are husband and wife. You have to trust me. How could I possibly harm our family company?" I looked at him coldly and calmly said, "Let me correct you. This company is named Cola, not Felix, let alone Jessica." Hearing my words, Felix's face instantly turned pale. I ignored his pallor and asked Uncle Philip to turn on the projector in the conference room. It started to play footage from the villa at number 36 Cargo Street. In the footage, Felix and Jessica were sweetly embracing each other, and their shocking conversation played out. Felix said, "Jessica, just wait a little longer. It won't be long before Lily joins her parents in the underworld. After she dies, she has no family, and all of her inheritance will be mine. I'll liquidate all her assets, take you away, and we, along with our child, will live happily ever after." Jessica snuggled in Felix's arms, her voice cute as she said, "That Lily is such a silly girl. She has never doubted you. But if you plan to poison her, won't that leave clues? It would be troublesome if the police caught you." Felix laughed and said, "No, I have it all planned. Since we got married, I've been adding a minimal amount of poison to her food. Many people in the company know she's unwell. I also bought a grilled-like herb from another city, the red root of which is highly poisonous. Just a bang can take someone's life. I'll prepare a bowl of chicken soup for her, under the pretense of nursing her back to health. She won't suspect anything. Even if anything happens, the police will just assume she bought the wrong herbs. The most crucial part is that everyone knows my persona, the loyal and loving husband. Nobody will ever suspect me." The executives in the meeting room stared chillingly at Felix. Felix was swaying profusely, his body shaking as if he could faint at any moment. I watched him coldly and sarcastically said, "What a perfect husband you are! Do you wish to see me dead that urgently?" Felix tried to flee the conference room, but was swiftly taken down by Uncle Philip. In one swift move, he restrained Felix on the floor, while other executives helped pin him down as someone dialed the police. Felix roared hysterically, glaring at me with bloodshot eyes. "Lily, you cheap woman! When did you find out about my relationship with Jessica? How did you get hold of this surveillance footage?" Looking down at him, I calmly said, "Felix, aren't you curious why I'm still fine?" At this, Felix paused before laughing maniacally. "Indeed, you've already drunk the poisoned chicken soup. I personally witnessed you consuming it. Lily, your demise is inevitable." A thick sense of mockery spread across my face. "Now that I know you and Jessica want me dead, how could I honestly drink the poisoned chicken soup you cooked for me? 2 pots of chicken soup, one nutritious, one toxic. I drank the healthy one. Can you guess where the poisonous one went?" Felix's wild laughter froze, his eyes wide with surprise. You despicable woman, you're so poisonous." Before he could finish, I brutally slapped him across the face, grabbed his hair, and coldly retorted, "You forced me to do this. Felix, thank you for the life lesson. See you in the next life." The police arrived and took Felix away. Felix was guilty of stealing from the company and transferring assets under Jessica's name, including the villa at number 36 Cargo Street, all bought with the company's money. All of it was to be recovered. The poisoned chicken soup incident had also been exposed. A private detective captured Felix handing the poisoned soup to Jessica, and the evidence was submitted to the police. Jessica drank a small amount of the soup. Though poisoned, she didn't die immediately. However, the child she carried couldn't be saved, and her body sustained irreversible damage. On the 10th day of Felix's detainment, Jessica passed away. Before she died, she screamed in anger, "Felix, you damned scoundrel." Hearing the news of Jessica's death, Felix's hair turned completely white overnight in the detention center. Before the court summoned him for trial, he crashed headfirst to his death in the facility. After his death, I personally sent him to the crematorium. After all, we were still officially married. I didn't mind sending him off for his last journey. There was no burial, no tombstone. I held Felix's urn by the riverside and threw his ashes into the river. Watching the urn sink to the bottom, I sighed in relief. Felix, farewell forever. If there's an afterlife, I hope we never meet again. The darkened days of the past are behind me, and the road to tomorrow is bright. I believe the future holds promise. May the heavens bless me once more, preventing me from encountering such a vile man again. The end.